Good morning, Christian Church of Litchfield. How are we doing today? Hey, I love it. I love it. I love the 8 o'clock worship hour. I'm glad to be here. I was reading this week about a poor community in Paraguay that is known for a couple of things. One of them is they have an enormous landfill. More than 1,500 tons of garbage is dumped there every day. But the other amazing thing is there's a large community of people who live there in that landfill. That's their life. And they make a living by going and sorting through the trash and the garbage, finding things that can be recycled. And this week I read where a very talented musician went down there and he saw the horrible living conditions, but he saw the amazing ingenuity of these people. And with no money, they began to recycle stuff and make instruments. And that landfill is not just known for being an enormous garbage dump. It has become the home of an amazing children's orchestra. And I'm going to play a video clip, and you can listen to it for yourself. If you have trouble reading small print, you may want to just move forward because you probably won't understand the language, but at the bottom of the screen, it's written in English so you can understand what is happening. If you don't care what's being said, you'll still appreciate the amazing music that comes from these kids, that has come from the garbage.
Mi nombre es Ada Maribel Ríos Bogado, tengo 13 años y toco el violín.
Me llamo Juan Manuel Chávez, más conocido como Baby, tengo 19 años y toco el cello. Este cello está hecho de una lata de aceite, la madera tirada en la basura y las clavijas son de una vieja cuchara para golpear la carne y para hacer el ñoquis. Y suena así.
Una comunidad como Caldeura no es un lugar para tener un violín. De hecho, un violín cuesta más que su casa.
En ese grupo acá mismo encontramos el colador de violín y de ese empezamos los instrumentos reciclados. La familia que acá vive recicla todo lo que hay en la basura y se vende. No pensaba antes que yo voy a hacer ese instrumento. Y me siento demasiado feliz cuando estoy viendo a un niño que está tocando un violín reciclado.
Cuando ya escucho el sonido del violín siento como mariposas en el estómago, así una sensación que no sé cómo voy a explicar.
That's pretty incredible, isn't it? Isn't that amazing? If you want to see more of it, that's just a very small clip. You can look it up. You can Google it online. Landfillharmonic.com will take you there. You can do Paraguay landfill. It's easy to find and to search. Just incredible. People living in the midst of the garbage, making their lives there. Can't you imagine housewife every day looks around and says, this place is a dump. And literally, it is. But out of the trash comes valuable treasure. You know, that's kind of a story God writes in our lives, isn't it? There are times we feel totally spiritually bankrupt. And our lives are so broken. And they're such a mess as we stand before God. And yet, that's what God loves to do. He loves to come into our lives that are just so empty and fill them up. In the Old Testament, there's a story of Elisha where a woman comes to him one day and her husband has died, and she said, the creditors have come and they're going to take my 2 sons into slavery. Please help. And he says, what do you have in the house? And she says, I just have one little jar of olive oil. He said, go to your friends and your neighbors, as many people as you can, and borrow as many empty jars as you possibly can and take them into your house. So she went to her friends and neighbors and everybody in the community, and she got all these jars and she just filled them up in the room. Elisha said, what I want you to do now is take your son, go in that room, close the door, and take your jar of olive oil and begin to fill the jars. And she did. You think, well, you take it out of one jar and fill another one, that's it. But no, God loves filling empty jars. And filled another one, and another one, and another, until finally she comes out and she goes, all the jars are full. Now, that's what God specializes in. And for some of you this morning, you're in a great place. You come because your jar is empty. Your life has just been turned upside down and poured out. And you say, please fill me up. But here's what I really fear. Most of us come today and our jar's already full. Understand, there's only one requirement for God to fill a jar. It must, first of all, be empty. It's impossible to fill a jar that's already full unless you empty out its contents. And so maybe for us today, we're so blessed, we're so far removed from the landfill in Paraguay that we have to pour our lives out, we have to empty ourselves in order to receive. The jar is just the recipient. And to receive what God has for us today, maybe we just need to empty our lives before Him. Now, today, we're going to talk about something really important. And you're going to have to understand this difference. Here it is. There is an enormous difference between being full and fulfilled. Please understand that. There's a big difference between being full and being fulfilled. A lot of people are full today, and that's why they're not here. But in reality, they're not fulfilled. And so we've got to empty our jar in order to receive the blessing. Remember last week, we talked about 2 men that went to the temple to pray. One man God couldn't bless because he was already full. He was full of himself, the Pharisee. Oh, look who I am. I'm not like the adulterer, the murderers, all those evildoers. I tithe, I pray, I do all these great things, God. You're so fortunate to have me. No blessing for him. He was already stuffed of himself. But over in the corner was a tax collector, and he just emptied himself. I'm broken before you, God. Be merciful to me, a sinner. that man received the blessing from the Lord. And so we have to empty ourselves in order to receive the blessing that God has for us. And when you go through scriptures, you find God is so generous. And when you go through the Gospels, we see Jesus do it time and time again. His first miracle, he turned water to wine. He said, what? Bring all the water pots and fill them up to the brim. And, he transformed it from water into wine, of course. He took the woman at the well who was running on empty, and he filled her life with that living water. She says, every day I come here to draw water. Sir, I want something that's going to last. And she found it in Jesus. Now, today, we find that, once again, God wants to fill our lives. He has prepared a great banquet, a feast for us in Luke chapter 14. And we're going to begin reading about it here today, verses 16 and 17. Jesus replied, a certain man was preparing a great banquet and invited many guests. And at the time of the banquet, he sent his servant to tell those who had been invited, come, for everything is now ready. So this represents God. And he has prepared a tremendous treat, a tremendous blessing. This banquet, this table represents where our deepest needs are going to be met. And he says, come. Now, once we understand and know that it's God offering this invitation, and once we understand what is being offered, that our needs are going to be met, everybody should show up. But they don't. They don't come. And the reason why is they begin to give excuses. And these are people that evidently make their living on excuses. And one after another, they come and say, hey, I'd love to. I like that guy. Hey, I love God. Just got to understand, a lot happening right now. I'm full. But we're going to understand there's a big difference between being full and being fulfilled. So here we go. Number one today, we'll break it down. The first is seen in verse 18, I think it is. But they all alike began to make excuses. And the first said, I have bought a field, and I must go and see it. Please excuse me. Now, I don't know what real estate was going for back then, but it's pretty pricey today. And I can't imagine anybody buying a field without, first of all, having seen it. Jeff, would you buy a farm or a field sight unseen? Not me either. Something, it could be a dump, a garbage dump, a landfill, you're buying. I mean, so can't imagine buying a field. But what it is, this guy's just into buying stuff. And so what we call it is consumerism. It's up there on the screen. Consumerism, it's where if you buy enough stuff, you'll be fulfilled. It's a lie. You will not be fulfilled. You might be stuffed with stuff for a while. You might be full for a while, but you're not going to be fulfilled. Now, here we go. Think this through with me. How many commercials do we see on TV? The Super Bowl, great game, best Super Bowl I think I ever watched. Loved watching it last week. But the commercials, that's where the money's made. And the commercials, I don't care whether it's on the Super Bowl or whether you turn it on when you go home today. Pay attention to the commercials. And here's the basis of the commercials. These guys pay millions and millions of dollars, these companies do, for these commercials. And they're effective. Why are they effective? Because of this. It's the presumption of emptiness. Every commercial begins with the presumption of emptiness. There's something missing in your life. If you just buy this house, or if you just buy this model or make of car, or if you just wear these designer jeans or clothes or shoes, or if you just drink this beverage, you're going to be fulfilled. And I want to tell you, we, like no people in the history of the world, have bought into this first one of consumerism. We buy. We consume. And it's like salt water. It doesn't satisfy. It creates even more thirst. And we think, well, the problem is I just haven't bought enough stuff. Now, if I buy one more toy or gadget, that will fulfill me. But then we look around and we see other people that seem to be successful. And we realize they bought more stuff than we have. And if we buy what they have, we too will be successful. That's part of the problem today. Why our churches are not full to running over is we're just stuffing ourselves with junk. Presumption of emptiness. Here's a statement I want you to see. And this is the battle that we face in our society today, the church. It's difficult to get people interested in the bread of life when they're already stuffed with junk food. Isn't that true? I mean, can you imagine right after you've eaten? There's an Andy Griffith clip, should have played it, where he had like 3 spaghetti suppers in one night because Aunt B was going to be gone. Everybody thought they'd help him out. And finally someone said, hey, I've got spaghetti. He goes, oh, he loves spaghetti. But after being stuffed with 3 meals within just a short period of time, no thank you. You know, you just can't stand the thought of any more. And so we think we're fulfilled, but the feeling leaves. And so we got to go out and we got to keep stuffing it. Here's what Mother Teresa said, and this is really good. She says, the spiritual poverty of the Western world is much greater than the physical poverty of our people in Calcutta. You in the West have millions of people who suffer such terrible loneliness and emptiness. Don't buy into it. There's a banquet God has prepared, and it is the bread of life, and it does satisfy. And don't get caught in this consumer trap that if I just buy more stuff, I'll be happy. Just isn't going to happen. Okay, on back to the parable. The second one comes with another excuse. Another said, I have just bought 5 yoke of oxen. I'm on my way to try them out. Please excuse me. We call this busyness. Busyness. Man, this guy is busy. How many are 5 yoke of oxen? How many would that be in total? 10, right? It's a pair. It doesn't work too well to put one ox under a yoke. It's made for a team, you know. So this guy's got a considerable investment here. He is saying, hey, my business is expanding. I got a lot going on right now. And I've made a big investment here. I'd love to come, but man, my life, my schedule, my days, my nights, they are full. They are packed. I'd love to come, but you don't understand how busy I am. This is work. This is responsibility. Man, I'm working overtime. Man, I'm putting in a lot of hours. Man, you know, I'm just so busy. The New York Times recently had an article entitled, The Busy Trap. It says, if you live in the 21st century, you probably had to listen to a lot of people tell you how busy they are. The default response for, how are you? Busy. How you doing? Busy. Crazy busy. We're busy all the time. Busyness serves as a kind of hedge against emptiness. Obviously, your life cannot be silly or trivial or meaningless if you're so busy, completely booked, and if you're in demand every hour of the day by people. We're busy because of our own ambition, our drive, and our anxiety. We are addicted to busyness, but in essence, we dread what we might have to face in its absence. Wow. Wow. That's kind of convicting. We're running. Hey, wish I could, man. I'm busy. And we all know people. We're all busy here, but we know people that are busier than us, right? I mean, and they just go day and night. I mean, there's just... I used to ask, what are they running to? Now I think the question is, what are they running from? Don't you? And I think that article nailed it. They just don't want to have to face how empty their lives might be. So the first guy, was obsessed with consumerism. Buy. He just stuffed his life with that. But look what we stuff our lives with now on the busyness. I read an article this week, and here's what it says. The average American spends 1,000 hours a year watching TV. That's the average. They've done studies. Okay, time you're 65, you will have spent 10 years of your life. That's 24 hours a day. 10 years of your life, out 65, watching TV. You think, man, what a waste. Guess what? It's only become worse. Because now we're not connected to the TV as much as we are to the internet. Oh, listen to this. And we know it's true. Just look at your life. The iPad, the iPhone, the computer. It says this generation, time they are 65, will have spent 25 years of their life. I think it's probably more than that. But that's a lot. 25 out of 65 total years. Staring at a screen. What are we doing? IDC research found 80% of smartphone users won't go to the bathroom without their smartphone. It cited another article that was entitled, The Rise of the Toilet Texter. Isn't that something? I have to go to the bathroom, but I'm not going to go if I can't take my phone. You know what they call that? Besides stupid? Codependency. We call that addiction. You say, boy, I'm glad I'm not that way. Really? You ever find yourself at a party or visiting with people, and maybe you're a little bored? Thank God for iPads or iPhones. Just pull it out. Oh, I got a text from so-and-so. And you just connect to a different relationship even though you're there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Whoa, really? Wow. You don't know what you're agreeing to. Because we're just so busy. And I think the reason that we become married to our technology today and to the social media and everything else is just proof of how empty we are. Let's look at somebody else's life. What am I missing? What do they have that I do not have? I don't know about you, but the one thing I will love on the day I retire, you know what it is? I'm going to take my cell phone. I'm going to stand on Long Bridge. I'm going to heave that thing as far down the creek as I possibly can. That thing, I find, controls my life night and day. And it's made my life a lot more busy. Busy, busy, busy. Third, verse 20. Still another said, I just got married and my wife won't let me come. I just got married, so I can't come, he says. Okay, we'll call that relationships. I think mine was more honest, but nevertheless, the translation is, he said, I just got married and I can't come. Now, out of the three, I would give this guy a pass, wouldn't you? I mean, come on. You know, the other two, maybe not. But this guy, I mean, this is a pretty legit, I mean, wouldn't you say, hey, this is pretty important? Well, the invitation was, bring your spouse, okay? But they just didn't. This is a guy that's all into relationships. He's big into family, and we ought to be. I'm not putting down family. But this guy is just, man, he's got it going on with family. He's got it going on, you know, with relationships. But specifically, it's not just about kids or grandkids. It's more about, I think, romance. Hey, I'd like to accept that offer to come to that banquet, but I'm going to accept one. Over here at this table, they're serving up romance. You know, Valentine's Day is coming up next weekend. So I think I will buy into a little romance. Yeah, that's what's missing. If I have the right relationship, that will fulfill me. This week, and I've shared this before, I didn't realize, it's the number one, I don't know how they pick it, I really don't care, but it's called the number one romantic line of all movies, and it comes from Jerry Maguire. And it's where Tom Cruise has looked for fulfillment in a lot of different relationships, and they've just bombed out. They just didn't work out at all. He tried to find it in work, he's had some success, but he's still missing something until he meets Renee Zellweger. Remember? And they meet. And he tells her, towards the end of the movie, this line. I'm glad somebody else watched it too and wasted their time as much as I did. You complete me. Oh, we say that's so sweet. That sounds so nice. They live happily ever after. You complete me. Now, we know what happened. The movie just ended too soon, right? I mean, had it gone on for another 10, 20 years, Tom Cruise would have found out Renee did not complete him. Nobody completes you. If you're depending upon fulfillment from any one person to meet all your needs, your deepest needs, you're going to be disappointed. And yet we got people doing that. They say, wow, they're going to meet every need of mine. They'll complete me. A few years into the marriage, we're standing back saying, I'm emptier than ever before. I just married the wrong one. If I find the right one, they'll complete me. So out she goes, and we get another one. And that doesn't work as well as we thought it would. And out she goes, or he goes, and then comes another one. And we chase this illusion. And it's just not there. It just leaves us empty every time. Relationships. Now, let me read to you. This isn't on the screen. It's not on the PowerPoint. Because I just want you to listen, okay? I want you to listen to what Jesus says about these excuses, what God has to say. And when we read his response, it shows to us the high cost of living our lives on excuses before God. Now, if that's you or I, my response is going to be different than God's response. If I invite you, and the Lord says, hey, I'm busy. Jim and I are doing some stuff with the kids. Hey, I understand. Not a problem. And so we live in a world where we know people have other commitments, and we're not the most important thing in everybody's life. And so we say, hey, we'll do it another time, and we're okay with that. Hey, love to come, Mark, just can't. That's no big deal. He understands. This guy doesn't understand. And it really makes God look kind of bad. These are people that have a lot going on. But look how he responds, or listen to how he responds. It's on the part. Listen. The servant came back and reported this to his master of all three excuses. Then the owner of the house said, well, how is that understandable? No. He became angry and ordered his servant, go out quickly into the streets and the alleys of the town and bring in the poor, the crippled, the blind, and the lame. Sir, the servant said, what you ordered has been done, and there's still room. Then the master told his servant, go out into the roads and the country lanes. Go out to the boondocks, 40th and Plum and 1282 Longbridge Trail, and make them come in so that my house will be full. I tell you, not one of those men who were invited will get a taste of my banquet. And the very next verse begins the cost of discipleship. I don't know about you, but some of you are about to say, wait a minute, God, you don't understand. No, you got it backwards, God says. We don't understand. He understands perfectly. What we have failed to understand is this. How valuable, how precious is the table that God invites us to come and dine with him. We don't understand who he is, that it takes priority over everything else. No matter how stuffed your life is with junk or with relationships or work, God's invitation supersedes all else. Here was the problem. The master understood very clearly. The three men that gave the excuses did not understand who it was that was inviting them. They didn't know God. They didn't understand the banquet table that had been prepared. And I tell you why our churches are not full today. It's because people do not understand God's invitation. I mean, isn't that pretty much it? The only relationship that's going to complete me is the fact that there's a God who wants me and loves me. And when I'm right with him, then I can handle other relationships. I can be better in other relationships. I can accept disappointment and rejection and extend forgiveness with other relationships because those relationships don't complete me. Only God can complete my life. Now, I came across a challenging question this week. It was, imagine you could go to heaven, okay? And it's all there, everything you want. No pain, no sorrow, no sickness, no doctors. I mean, it's just paradise. You're never sick, and you never have to borrow money or go in debt. I mean, it's all free. And you have all your family and your friends. So you got your health, you got your wealth, you got your family, you got your friends. Everybody's there but one person, and that's Jesus. He's just not there. Would you be satisfied? Would you be content? A lot of people would sign up because they do not understand where fulfillment is found. And they say, that's good enough for me. Sure beats hell. Hey, I can live very well like that. No, you can't, for Jesus is life. Here's the question we're putting up here. We got twofold. Do I love Jesus for who he is? Or do I just love him for what he gives me? Am I in love with Jesus? Am I in love with his gifts? Would I be satisfied if I was living in that garbage dump in Paraguay as long as Jesus was at my side? Or would I say, I think I'll just take a mansion where I've got my family and friends around me? Jesus isn't there. It's a real challenge, isn't it? Challenges my life as well. Here's the invitation from Isaiah. Come, all you who are thirsty, and that's all of us, come to the waters. And you who have no money, that's me. Come buy and eat. Come buy wine and milk without money and without cost. Why spend money on what is not bread, and your labor on what does not satisfy? That's the challenge, isn't it? Why do we just waste our lives? In closing, if I may, I'd like to read a portion of Scripture from Ecclesiastes of a very wise man, one of the wisest men that ever lived. And he says, here's what he says. I tried cheering myself in chapter 2, and I hope you go home and read this book, the first few chapters this week. It'll explain what we're talking about. I tried cheering myself with wine and embracing folly. My mind still guided me with wisdom. I wanted to see what was worthwhile for men to do under heaven the few days of their lives. I undertook great projects. I built houses for myself. I planted vineyards, gardens. I planted all kinds of trees. Man, this guy's into it. He had reservoirs and lakes and ponds. And I bought male and female slaves. I bought more herds and flocks than anyone that's ever lived. I amassed more silver and gold for myself. Stuff consumed. It wasn't there. Relationships. I acquired men and women and a harem. I denied my heart nothing. If he saw a woman he wanted, he thought, she'll fulfill me. I wonder when he figured out this isn't working. He had 1,000 different women. He tried to find fulfillment in relationships. At what point does he say, you know what, I don't think this is working out? I guess he found it after 1,001. I don't know. I denied myself nothing, he says. And here's what he says. It was meaningless. It was, literally, in his words, chasing the wind. Don't chase the wind today. God invites you to his table, to his banquet. And as we stand to sing our invitation hymn today, our decision hymn, don't turn him away. Get your priorities straightened out in your life. You have a lot of other offers every day. But every day you have God saying, come, I want to spend some time with you. I want to talk to you through my word. I want to pray with you. I want to meet you with you around my table that I prepared every Lord's Day here at church. Don't say no to that great invitation. Let's stand and sing.